Okay, we'll get started with our webinar for today. Welcome to Writing and Response webinars. Today we'll be talking about Verso Learning. So this is a website that you can use for student discussions, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But first, for those who haven't met me, let me introduce myself. I'm Mary Kovach from Erie One BOCES, Winnierick. And if you have any questions during the webinar today, if you are viewing the live webinar, there's a link at the top of the screen that you can go to. On every slide here, whenever I'm at the slide, it will say ask a question at goo.gl/slides/37ZAC2. So again, this is just for those watching the live session. If you are viewing the recording, there will be a separate discussion area where you can post questions, and I will show you that at the end of the webinar. So what is the Verso Learning app? And I do have access to this slides presentation, as well as the link to Verso Learning within the online course platform. But Verso offers an online platform where teachers can share activities, which really are, for the most part, student discussions, allowing them to post comments. And for students, the responses are anonymous to other students, but teachers will see who posted which comments. Another thing that makes Verso unique as far as a platform for student discussion is that students are given the responsibility of flagging content or giving thumbs up. So there isn't a place for negative feedback as far as a thumbs down. But again, students are anonymous to each other, which hopefully will allow for more honesty when it comes to treating others' comments or replies fairly. And also, hopefully, help for those less outgoing students to feel more confident in what they may write in class and respond to. Because again, students who may not raise their hand in class, if they still know that they may be seen online, so to speak, may still feel less apt to speak up. But the idea is through some different strategies they promote and through these features that students will feel like they can be part of the discussion and again, be on that even playing field. Okay, so the links that I have on this slide, I have the link to the website. Also, what I'll be showing you today are features that you can get started with in the free version of the software. So in the free version, you can see in the red here that you have pretty much all of the features, only some of them will be limited to, for example, the number of activities. So the number of activities and classes you can have active would be 5 at a time. I'll show you how you can export classes or results after the fact. And also they have some collaborative structures that they build in. Some they offer to you for free for those who maybe don't have a structure to use, such as cooperative learning structures. Some people use Kagan or some others. They do have some of these built in as well. But with the free version, that number is limited. And you can see they also do have classroom and school and district accounts as well. It's relatively inexpensive. I honestly feel like there's still a lot that you can do with the free version through the features that I will show you today. So just in case it's something you wanted to look into and take to the next step, those are there. And also on this slide, I do have linked the app for iPads. So if students have iPhones, iPads, they can respond and interact through that app as well. Okay, so to get started with Verso Learning, as I mentioned in the description for this webinar, it's Verso Learning for either Google or Office 365. So certainly teachers could sign up with just their email address, But there are some nice features. If you sign up with Google or Microsoft, you can pull resources right into your classroom activities, classroom discussions from those accounts. And students can do the same. They can sign in with either a Microsoft or a Google account that they have through school. So I'm going to go to versolearning.com. Okay, and here, when you first go to sign up, you would click sign up here in the upper right. And you would choose I am a teacher. And obviously students would click I am a student. Okay, and then here is where you can either click sign in with Microsoft or sign in with Google. Again, teachers could create their own account based on an email address as well, and so could students. More often than not, though, students may be more apt to have, through school, Microsoft or Google accounts than they do an email address. Even some schools may have the Google G Suite turned on for students, but not the email portion of that. So in this case, I'm going to click sign in with Google. Okay, and actually I've signed up before, so it logs me right in. Okay, when you first log in, it may ask you just some information about what grade levels you teach, and then it will bring you to your dashboard. Okay, so the first thing I'll take you to is creating your first class. So again, you can have up to 5 classes in the free version. There's nothing against having one big class with many students in it. The number of students is unlimited, even in the free version. So once you go to your classes from the left-hand menu, you'll click on the plus in the blue circle to create a new class. Select your class's information. And you could also upload an optional image for your class. So let's say other teachers are using this, they would know right away just by kind of your class's, let's say, signature, picture, icon, or image. Okay, so I'm going to go to my classes here. Okay, so now, if you don't have any classes created yet, you wouldn't see other tiles. So in here, I'm going to click create a new class. Okay, so here I'm going to say 6th grade, or I could say Mrs. Kovach's 6th grade. Okay, and here is where then you can mark your class status as either live or closed. So again, if you are going to go over those classes, then the number of classes in the free, you can always close a class. So in here, I'll pick my subject. I'll just call it elementary, let's say. I don't have to put a number of students. That will be determined really by the students who join the class through a class code, which I will show you. Okay, optionally too, I could pick my year here. Some of them actually have a combo of grades for those students who may have a looping classroom. Or if I had college level or adult education, I could mark that here as well. Okay. Now also I have the button to add colleagues. So if I had co-teachers, then I could click here. And again, if there are other teachers within your district signed up for it, they would pop up here. But if teachers in your district are not already signed up for Verso, you could invite them by email, and then they would receive an email to sign up for Verso. And then they could be co-teachers in your class. Okay, and this is a class image. So if I wanted to upload something here, so I'm going to search for my shamrock picture here. Oops, spelled it wrong there. Okay. Let's say I upload this. And then I can click on create class. Okay. So the next steps in this will be to create activities. So once you have your class, you can start to pre-build these activities before students are in the class, or add them at any other point. And again, in the free version, you can only have 5 active, but I'll show you how you can export student responses results once you're finished with one of your activities. Okay, so once you create it, first you're going to give it a name and choose which class you would like to assign this to. And again, you can go back, there's an area where you can go back to just your content, and you could assign this to multiple classes as well. And we'll talk about those areas later. So it does encourage you to provide some kind of a stimulus that will cultivate student curiosity. So you'll have a topic, ask students a question, but maybe it's a link to an interesting article, a link to an interesting YouTube video, something that's topical based on what you are studying in class. And again, this is where it's nice if you are using Google Drive or OneDrive, you can pull resources right in from either your OneDrive or your Google Drive. Okay, so from here, again, this is my new class, so I don't have any activities yet. I'm going to click Create Activity. Okay. And again, I could put in a learning objective. So we'll say this one I'm going to do about Pi Day. Oh, I'm competing with the rain here. Sorry about that. I wish I could turn the rain down. So I'm going to put in objective. I know about Pi Day, what pi is, and how it is used, let's say. My activity name, I'm going to put Pi Day. And I'm going to assign it to my 6th grade class, although I could always then choose a different class here if I wanted to. Okay, so now here is where I could either upload a file that would bring me to my computer to upload a file. I can add in a link. So for example, here I have Pi Day video. I could copy that link from YouTube and go back to here, click on link, and then where it says enter link URL, I can right click and paste, and I can paste that link in here. And if it is a YouTube video, it will recognize it as such. And again, if I wanted to bring something in from my Google Drive, I can search any of my Google Drive folders. So again, if it's a document you already have in Google Drive, you can attach it right there. Okay, so I have my Pi Day video. And then I have an area for instructions. So in this area, let me just go to my next slide here. You would enter in student instructions. So there is going to be a series of text boxes for different instructions. So they do recommend that you be explicit in what you expect from your students, and remember to include your learning intentions. Okay, so again, if you are using your own learning structures for online learning or for cooperative learning, you could include them here. Again, there are 4 that are available for free through the free version that you can look at through their platform, which we'll take a look at later. Okay, so it also suggests that you add sentence stems, writing frames, or you could put in some model answers. And what's interesting about this platform too is that one of the text areas is designated for contextual and academic vocabulary. So contextual being that subject specific vocabulary terms. So for example, for Pi Day for math, it might be radius. For academic vocabulary, it's going to be something that goes across different subject areas. So the word determine, something that you might see in multiple academic subject areas. Okay, so in the instruction area, I could type here, and you do have a few tools you can use, make text bold, italicized or underlined. If you wanted to put bullet points or enumerate items for students, you could do that as well. So I'm going to say, today is Friday. what is pi? I could say, watch the video and recall prior knowledge from our math lessons this week. For this discussion, I would like you to talk about a profession that uses concepts of pi and tell us why they are important. Okay, and I could write more instructions here as well. If I wanted to, again, I could put a sentence stem in here or a model answer. So, for example, I could say, you know, let's see, sentence stem. Profession that uses pi is, oops, I do shift and then I could put a space here, whatever that might be. Okay, now here is where they recommend you put some targeted vocabulary. So what this does then is when you look at your teacher results, it's tracking when students use these vocabulary terms. And certainly, this is something where maybe it's vocabulary that you have explicitly taught. It could be something then that you mention in your instructions. So be sure to use the math and academic vocabulary language that we have been practicing. Okay, so then I could type in things like circumference, radius, whatever it might be, you know, reason, determine. Okay, and then we'll go on to the advanced options from here. Okay, so the other options you have, you actually have to click on this drop-down triangle below to choose your advanced options. So this is where you can choose whether your activity is live or closed. So it could be where you want students to only see this activity during a certain time frame that you designate. You could also set a specific start and finish date. So that way, automatically, that discussion area will be open and closed within a certain time frame. Okay? You can also choose a minimum number of responses that students need to make. And you can choose whether you want extended responses and whether you want to allow them to do more than just type in text, if you want them to allow images, videos, or audio files. Okay, so in my advanced options, I'm going to click my triangle here. And again, if I wanted this activity to be closed for now so that students didn't see it, I could even close it, let's say if I'm still working on it. Or if I wanted to, I could set a start or end date, or I could say, well, this is going to be finished by Monday, let's say. And if I wanted to allow students to put in images or videos, again, you know your students. If this is something that you think would be helpful, great. If you think it's something that would be distracting, then you don't have to select those options necessarily. Okay, and again, this is if you did have a school account, then you would be able to share this with other teachers in your district. So if it's something that the district purchases, you can share it so that anyone at your school can see it, or district in the free version. It's not so much of a concern. If you wanted to share this activity publicly so that it shows up kind of in this public library, which we'll talk about later, you have the choice to do that as well. But now I'm just going to go to the bottom and click Create Activity. Okay, so now you see the activity will have the YouTube video embedded in here. So I can click, and then students would view the video. Okay, so I will show you then how this will look from a student perspective, and also first how students would log in. So I'm just going to refresh here, see if we have any questions. Looks like we don't yet. Again, if you're just joining us a little bit late, maybe a few minutes late, the link to ask questions during the live session is at the top of the screen whenever I'm in my Google Slides. Okay, so for students to log in, there is a way that teachers can create a spreadsheet and upload it. However, as I mentioned, that would, most students now, it seems, have Office 365 or Google accounts through their school that they can use. Some even have that, but not email addresses. The upload would be for students who have active email addresses. So what students can do is, again, go to versolearning.com, click sign up, and this time choose I am a student. And the way I would recommend that students join your class is through the class code that shows up. So again, once I go back to my classes from my left-hand menu, notice now how I have all of my tiles, and then I see a class code. Okay, and so again, you can click on it to make it larger. Let's say if you're walking students through this process in class, you can bring the code up large on your smartboard, your projected image, whatever you might have, or you can hand this code out to students as well. Okay, so I'm actually just going to copy this code, and I'm going to go in to a student account here. So actually, I'm just going to log out of here. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to versolearning.com. So again, for students, they would click sign up just as teachers would, but now they would click I am a student. So again, they could use an email address, or they could sign in with Microsoft or with their Google account. And I think this is really the best way, just to make sure they keep everything consistent and they're not creating a new password. If they forget their password, you can just let them know that it's the password they would use for their Google or their Microsoft account. For students who may not have that option, again, there is the email address option. Okay, so I'm going to click sign in with Google. Okay. And now for students to join classes, they can also click on the classes tab here. If they haven't joined any classes before, it's going to prompt them right away with that same plus in a circle, and they can click join a class. And then this is where they would type in that class code that you gave them, and then students would click join a class. Okay. And then you can see that it brought me right back to this 6th grade class. But again, they can always click on their classes from the left menu. If they have multiple teachers using this, then they would see all of their classes as tiles if they click on classes. Okay. So again, students would enter that class code, join the class, and then they would see the activities. Okay, so when students click on the tile for that activity, they will see a box to type in a response. And again, if you gave them the ability to upload images, videos, audio files, they would see an upload button as well. But let me go into the student view here, and I'm just going to click on my class here. Okay. And then as a student, I can click on the tile to get to that activity. Okay. So now students either, if it's a video, watch the video. If it's an image or an article to a link to an article to click on, they would click there. Let's turn that down. So they would watch the video. And then below here, they would see the instructions. Okay, so they'll see the teacher's picture. And we'll talk about later too, if you wanted to kind of customize it so that it feels more personalized for students. You can upload your own picture as well. Okay, and students also have that ability. Okay, and so then any other information that the teacher has given you to help with that response, the student will see here. Okay, so then here I can say, I think that an engineer needs to use pi. She would have to determine the, let's see, I'll use the word circumference of the building space. Let's say if it was something that was circular, and plan how many square meters approximately. Obviously, we're never going to know exactly. She would have to work with. Okay. And then click submit. Now notice as well, the students will not see other student responses, even though obviously in here we don't have them, but they would not see other student responses until they actually respond. Okay. So let me just go in here. I'll just kind of log in here as another student, let's say. Let's see. I'll go to here. Okay, so we're going to go to versolearning.com. Okay, so again, if students are signing up, they can click I'm a student, sign in with Google. And this is the first time they're signing in. It will ask this. Also, teachers can use this along with Google Classroom as well. Okay, so when students first log in, they would see this area to put in the class code. Their first class code, they could certainly add more, and then click on complete my registration. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and view my classes. And so hopefully that gave you another chance to see from the student perspective who maybe hadn't already signed up for other classes. Okay, so I'm going to click on, this is Kovach's 6th grade. And now as another student, I'm going to go in and I am going to type in a response here. So I could say, basketball players need to know about pi. I don't need to know about it, but or need pi, let's say. Without it, the ball would not even be close to being round and might bounce unfairly. Let's just say that's what a student thought. Just kind of thinking outside the box, as some students might do. I'm sure you have those students. and click submit. Okay, so again, from the student view, they'll see their own response as me and any other student's name. Instead of seeing the name of the student, they will see the word respondent. Okay. And I believe it's just 4 hours ago, probably has something to do with my time settings on here. But let me go back into my teacher account here. Okay, so again, we showed the student view, how they will just see respondent, and teachers can also preview this student view for themselves. Okay, so teachers would click in the upper right to kind of toggle back and forth between the teacher and the student view. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into the activity. Again, I'm in my classes, and then click activities at the top here. So activities and create an activity is where I would create a new one. And then if I click here, now I can see as the teacher, student names, okay? So teachers will see the student names. As a teacher, if I want to click on student view, it's going to show it just as a student would see it. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my teacher view and then talk about some of the feedback that teachers can see here. But first, I'm going to go back and I'm going to reply as one of the students here. So let's say now I see this respondent, okay, and I can like that. And as a student, I could go in and I can reply. So I can see I hadn't thought about that. Okay, so students can like, they can reply. It was something inappropriate. Students also have the ability to flag each other's posts as well. And we'll talk about the settings for that, whether you want those flagged things to be automatically hidden or if you want to choose as the teacher whether or not they first show up and then you choose to hide them. Okay, so now I'm going to go back here as the teacher. I'm just going to refresh my screen. Okay, so now by default, I'm in the teacher view. Okay, so I can see in this class right now, I only have 2 students. So 100% have responded. I have one student who didn't respond to someone else yet, and one student who did. So those are some of the options that you have in the teacher view. So from the teacher view, you have your activity overview. I could view that vocabulary in context, but this is the area where I can see the percentage of students who have responded and the percentage of students who have commented on someone else's. So again, it's something where you can set, as you saw in some of the advanced settings for the assignment, you can choose how many posts or responses you want them to be able to do. Okay. Now, also, as I mentioned, you only get the 5 free that you can kind of keep in your account. But if you wanted to download student responses, you'll have, once students do respond, in the upper right corner of your screen, you'll have this option, if you click on the 3 dots, to export that to a CSV file. Okay. So again, since I do have some student responses here, I can click on the 3 dots in the upper right of my activity, and I can choose export to CSV. Okay, and what it's going to do is send you an email. Okay, and let me just show you what that looks like. Okay, so again, if I go into, I'll just save that to my downloads. Okay, then I can open that up. It downloads in the CSV format. So I can see the user in one column. I can see their response in that area called body. And then I can see how many people marked that response as helpful. So as a teacher, even if I closed out or deleted an activity, I could still download those student comments. Okay. And if I wanted to edit my activity from that same screen where I'm looking at the activity engagement, I could click edit to go back and edit it, and then just click save in the upper right for any changes. Also, once I click on the activity and click the three dots, I could delete it from here as well or close it. Now the closed activities, once you close an activity, if I go back to my class, in this first activities tab, this is where I can create the new activity and where I see any of my existing live activities. But again, if I wanted to see closed activities, I would switch over from the activities tab to the closed tab here. Okay, so I don't have any closed ones in this course because I just opened that up. But here also, I can see my statistics. And I can see student by student as well, what the students have done so far. Okay, so I can see by student how many likes they receive, look at the student's profile, and I can see sort of a graph of their engagement. So I have some of those tools for individual students and those stats for my classes, my activities as a whole. Okay, and as I mentioned, for students, which I'd shown that, both teachers and students have the ability to click on individual responses to reply directly to them. So again, there's a likes button. There isn't a thumbs down button. Again, it's trying to keep this positive. Hopefully the anonymity helps with that, but also encouraging two things: giving positive feedback to other students, and if there is something that's inappropriate, taking that responsibility too to be an upstander, flagging content. So again, teachers will get a notification by default that another student has flagged a response. And if they agree, they have the option to hide a particular student response, or they could be hidden by default. Which brings me to the next area, which is the teacher profile. So this is where you can determine some of those things and how Verso is going to act for you. Let me just check for some other live questions. Okay. So again, from the left-hand navigation, you would click on the profile icon, and that's where you would access your teacher settings and where students could access student settings. So if I go into my profile on the left-hand side, this is where, if I wanted to remove this image, I could, or if I wanted to upload a picture of myself, I could click upload. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a picture of myself. If you have a piece of clip art or some other image, a picture of your pet, something that you want to use to identify yourself, tell something about you, that's certainly fine as well. But it would have to be an image that is downloaded to your computer. So something that's a JPEG. Again, I could choose a PNG file, which is also an image file. But you probably noticed with my Shamrock, it had kind of a black background then because that was a transparent image. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Okay, and again, it gives you an area if you wanted to upgrade. Also in this area, you can put in your details or change them if they need to be changed. You'll see if I scroll down, my Google account, because I signed in with Google, is automatically connected. Okay, I could choose to disconnect that. Or if I also have a Microsoft account, so for example, through BOCES, I actually have both the Microsoft and Google accounts. I could also connect my Microsoft account so that I could pull documents right in from my OneDrive as well, the same way I showed how you could bring in documents from your Google Drive. So it would work much the same way with your Microsoft account. Set a password I probably wouldn't do if you're logging in with your Google or Office 365. Again, just kind of keeping things simpler, using an account that you already probably use for other things during your day. Okay. And again, if you know that you were logged on another machine, another device someplace, and you didn't log out and you were concerned about somebody maybe accessing your account, you could always log out of those other sessions. Okay, and then the other area here that you'll see on the right is where you can choose how those flagged comments are handled. Okay, so again, if I scroll down to my profile under the parameters, I can choose whether or not flagged student responses are automatically hidden or automatically shown. And this can be, best determined, I think, based on your class and how you've seen them interact. And if it's something that needs to be modified at another point, you can certainly do that. And I would say yes to send me an email when flagged. So I would probably always say that, just so that when something is flagged, you get the notice about it. And then you can choose to take action based on that. Okay, so the other section is the Verso library. So if you're looking for some ideas of some discussions, some ones that may already be scaffolded, have some of those structures in place, maybe have some engaging videos or other content, you can actually search the Verso library of activities, and you can copy them into your own classes. Okay, so I'm going to go to Verso here. And then from the left-hand side, I'm going to click library. Okay, so now from here, I could filter for subjects. Okay, so I can search mathematics. I can choose, let's say, grade 6 to 8. Okay, and I can load more. Okay. So you see some of these, maybe some videos, some could be an image as well. So again, I could either just filter, or I could put in a keyword to search for as well. Okay, so let's say that I wanted to preview this activity. I'm just going to click on that thumbnail image for in and out calories here. Okay, so again, this gives a model response, vocabulary and context, and gives some instructions to students. So if this is something where the activity had to do with counting calories, bringing that aspect into the math classroom. So if I wanted to use this, what I could do is click copy in the upper right corner. So when I click copy, I can choose to create a single copy, or if I wanted to make a copy to multiple classes, I could choose more than one class at a time. Bearing in mind that if I wanted to make changes, then I would have to make the changes to multiple classes. Let's say in this case, I just want to assign it to this class. I would click copy. Okay, So it's going to say this activity has been copied across one class. As if I had selected more classes, then it would be there as well. So again, from the library, I have the Verso library, and I also have my content here. So you can see, even if I had created activities in a specific class, it's still going to show up if I click library and then I choose my content from the top. Okay. So now I have the ability from here, from my content, to click on the three dots and choose copy. And then I could copy it to another class. So it might be something where at first you want to create a single copy, make the changes that you want to make, and then copy that to your additional classes. So again, I would look at the library to find some activities that are existing, see what kind of things are out there. If you wanted a model for the types of discussions or Verso activities that you may want to create. Okay, and so some other areas here on the impact. Again, it talks about some of those structures here, which you can also find those by clicking on the toolkit. And I won't get too much into this because, again, if I scroll through, it's only the 4 that are really available in the free version. But again, if you want a learning structure, some new learning structures to use for your collaborative activities, whether online or face-to-face, you can find some of those here. But I think many teachers have them already set up in their classroom, some structures. Sometimes it's just a little bit of a transition if you're moving from face-to-face to an online collaborative environment. Okay, and I do have a support area on the left as well. So again, you can always contact me if you have any questions, post them to the discussion area. But they do have a nice area as well where they have some frequently asked questions and also some different articles about getting started with Verso. Okay, so I'm going to check again just to see if there are any questions. And so the link at the top, again, the goo.gl/slides/37ZAC2, that's if you're watching the live webinar. If you're watching the recording, I'll show you where you can ask your questions within our online learning platform. So just refresh for a second here. See if we have another question. Okay. So questions in the future. Let me just sign back into our online learning platform. Okay. So from here, if you're in the Verso Learning app, which if you've accessed the webinar video, most likely you are. So you were in the webinar video. Once you view that page, you will also see a link here to now a quiz that you would need to take to receive credit. So you do need a secret code in order to start the quiz. And let me just bring that up on the screen here for you. It's going to go into my quiz setup and kind of zoom in with that here. Scroll down. So it's right here. The secret code will be respondent, as in students see each other as respondent, but it's going to be all lowercase, the word respondent, but all lowercase. Okay, zoom in a little bit more to show that one more time here. Respondent, all lowercase. Okay. So now you should see the quiz. The other links that you'll see in here would be, again, the questions about Verso. So after the fact, if you have a question about this tool, oh, I see Amy's already put one here. The closed activities count toward the maximum of 5. I don't believe that they do. I think what they'll do is when you first sign up, it'll give you a trial. If you have more than 5, then it will, tell you you have to close these or keep them closed until you can pay if you wanted to keep more of those there. Again, if it's an issue, you can always download those activities as a CSV, but I believe that this would be live activities that you can have. So again, if it's something where you have 5 classes, one activity per class at a time might be something that will be manageable. But again, it's depending on how your class is set up for that. I believe, though, that the activities, if they're closed, would not count toward that maximum. And believe me, I have looked on their site for that. If I run into an issue with that, I will certainly contact them. Okay, so just a few other things. Okay, so now as well, if you need to go back and review the presentation, again, once you successfully complete the quiz, and that's 80 or higher, so 4 out of 5 or all 5 questions correct, you'll receive a certificate that shows up in the news section of the course for Verso. But if you need to review the presentation, you could click on that link now that you've accessed that webinar video, and then you could review those answers as well. So again, if there's something else that you have questions about, feel free to ask me. I guess I'll go back to both discussion areas and take a look at that. Go back to my discussion. I probably have several that are going on right now. Okay. So as always, if you have questions, you can contact me. Let me just bring my email up here again. Okay, so my email is mkovach@e1b.org. You can email me there as well, or post your question to the discussion area. And I look forward to seeing you in our final webinar that will answer the question, what the quiz is. So thank you for joining me, and have a good night or day.